Geralt of Rivia. Oh no, hang on. It's not Geralt of Rivia. It's Arnold Two Sheds Jackson, cowboy extraordinaire. Where's he from? I was thinking about this Welsh horse, Arthur Morgan. That's a Welsh name, isn't it? And there was some comment earlier in some conversation about him saying, "I'm not Scottish" or whatever he said. I'm not Scotch. I mean, he could be from West Wales. You know, they all dress as cowboys and think it's the Wild West, don't they? So that's quite plausible. Stay away from Micah because I don't want to. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by Beardy Bill's crazy bank raid, which was actually good fun. So worth doing. The camp. We're meeting various members of the gang. There's Uncle. Yeah, you remember him? We've talked about him before. Who's this? This is Mary Beth. Who's she talking to? Oh, that's Charles. Yeah, Charles is good for the old hunting. He's your hunting tutor, and apparently I think his father was Native American, and they rolled with the bison, so he knows what he's doing. There's Trelawney. We've talked about him. Who do I need to find? We haven't dealt with. That's the Reverend. What's his name, isn't it? The Reverend Swanson, Gloria Swanson. Dominic Chicken. Sean. Yeah, so Sean, like I said, he's at the beginning you think he's going to turn out to be, a hey diddly day leprechaun, cheeky Irish chappie, like you normally find in video games. But actually he's a very well drawn character. Great acting, great voice acting. He's got a very distinctive Dublin accent, if I know what I'm talking about. It sounds like David Brophy. It behaves like David Brophy as well. You don't know who that is. Friend of mine. But there's a really interesting scene where you raid one of the mansions, and he talks his way in, and he does the whole Irish blarney, hey diddly day, top of the morning to your act to get in there, which is very revealing. If you talk to Irish people get annoyed at other Irish people who play that card. That's why Terry Wogan and Graham Norton and those guys aren't universally popular in Ireland. And if an Irishman is trying that trick on you, then ask him what he's really up to. So he's a well portrayed Irishman, well portrayed Dubliner, and it turns out to be much more interesting than you think he's going to be. There's some great acting going on in this game. There's Mary Beth again. Hi, honey, how you doing? No, I don't. I'm busy. Shut up. Who was that? Reverend. Sorry, I do apologise. Father. Who's that there? There's Beardy Bill. We seem to be getting on a bit better with him recently. I don't know. Apparently that's to do with how you play the character. If you play him, if you press greet more than you press antagonise, then you improve your relationships with these guys. That's Miss Grimshaw. Mr. Grimsdale. Mr. Grimsdale. Hosea, yeah, like I said before, he's the con man. He's the senior member of the group, and basically kind of.
Herr Morgan.
Guten Tag. Dutch's psychic. He's good, very well acted again. It's good value. Missions with him are fun. I'm trying to find Dutch for you. Where the hell has he gone? Oh, he's probably in his tent, isn't he? It's next door to mine. Where are we going? Yeah, that sort of Blarney act that Sean does. It's a bit like that thing that people talk about. Churchill, for instance, is of doing that thing of pretending, a clever man pretending to be an idiot to gain an advantage, and that's a clever move if you can pull it off. Of course, there's also, the case where you've got someone like Boris Johnson who wants you to think that he's a clever man pretending to be an idiot, but actually he's an idiot pretending to be a clever man pretending to be an idiot. He is actually an idiot. That's the secret, the deceit that's going on there. Now, so watch out, Boris Johnson. Who's over here? Is that Dutch? There's Dutch. Let's go talk. Let's go see Dutch. Dutch van der Linde. hard not to think about Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, isn't it?
Best things are
Um,
done in a hurry.
doesn't sound Dutch. He's kind of got, like I said before, kind of Dutch liberal. Oh no, that's Javier. Javier. Who's this guy with a hat? Oh, that's Pearson. I can find everyone except Dutch. Micah, we've talked about. Oh God, he's hanging around by my tent. I'm gonna. Oh, and this is she's interesting. Hello, Tilly. She's kind of she seems to act as sort of Arthur's therapist every now and again. So you go and chat to her, and there's Dutch. And Arthur sort of unloads on her and goes, you know, I seem to be killing a lot of people. He hasn't quite said it feels like someone else is controlling me, but you can feel it going that way. By the way, I just found some hair tonic, which is up in right up north in a sort of next to a witch's cauldron. So my beard should go completely mental over the next few days. Looking forward to that. So you can't access beard lengths 8, 9, and 10 or something without the hair tonic. Magic beard.
Hello, Arthur.
Hi, Dutch. So this is Dutch van der Linde. Van der Linde? The interesting thing about Dutch people, those things like Vander and, you know, they're called Tussenvurksels. I think something like that. Tussenvurks. All right. They're called Tussenvurksels or something like that. So between names, or I'll look that up for you. But that's I never knew that before filling in official forms in the Netherlands. So there's this kind of progression with Dutch. You get the impression that historically he's been not a good guy, but he's a sort of enlightened, benevolent leader who's trying to mould society into. There's an implicit criticism of the way American society was going at this point and where it's ended up, I guess, if you extrapolate that. And Dutch is kind of has this sort of enlightened view that it's all going the wrong direction. But because this is a prequel, it's got that thing that prequels have where you know where it's going to end up and you know where that Dutch ends up. Spoiler alert from Red Dead Redemption. You know that he ends up turning into some sort of psychopathic despot. So there's this implication here that he's losing his marbles. Again, it sort of it does rob the main storyline of some sort of dramatic tension, kind of, because you know where it's going. It's a bit sort of Brechtian. I mean that's the nature of it dramatically. So that's Dutch, and his other half is called Molly. I think she's also Irish. We don't know much about her yet, other than the other girls resent her. And Karen, who we met before, Karen Jones, turns out to be called Jones. I did not know that. I'm obviously pleased about that. She came into her own during that bank raid. She was great at the old hoodwinking, and turns out to be handy with a pistol too. Another spoiler alert. And then there's Arthur Morgan himself. There he is. And catch the sun. There we go. Better lighting. Quite a clever choice in the sense that a bit like Geralt of Rivia in a way, that he's not stupid, but he's a bit sort of, he's a sort of direct, straightforward, likes doing stuff, doesn't think about stuff too much, isn't particularly well educated, and therefore you, as the guy playing him as the main character, get a lot of things explained to you in character along the way. Quite how free you are to mould his character, I'm not quite sure. But then it's difficult to tell, because it's difficult to tell when the game is funneling you towards what it wants the main storyline to be, or whether you yourself are funneling through decisions that you make. You're not even aware that that's not the thing you do. It's not quite as explicit as, say, Prey, where that's kind of the spoiler alert, where that's the fundamental point of the whole game, or maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe that's what it turns out to be. But there's a lot of ethical things going on. And again, I come back to this comparison with Westworld. Not so much as a drama, but the actual concept of the park in Westworld, where, spoiler alert, it turns out that the idea is to gather a lot of information on the guests' their personalities, essentially. And what decisions they make reveal a lot about themselves. Of course, PlayStation is, this is all online. So who knows whether this data is being gathered and we're being judged as to what kind of people we are. It's interesting to put you in that situation. There was one raid I did, a solo raid on a homestead, where the first time I walked down the path, I got ganked by about 15 guys who came out of the woods, dead. So I went back and did it, and I was extremely nervous, thinking, where are these guys? They're all in the houses or whatever. And I went in and ended up shooting the people straight away without asking questions. And it turned out there's only 2 of them. There she is. Turns out there's only 2 of them, and you know, a dad who you read a letter afterwards from his estranged wife, who turns out to be a wife beater, so no tears shed over him. But then his teenage son as well, who, you know, you shot without question, because you're in that state of mind, because you've just been ganked by these nutters who come out of the woods. But you can understand how people end up making extreme decisions like that. You made it yourself, and suddenly you question that morality, or maybe you don't. But the point is, the game knows that, doesn't it? It knows whether, you know, because I've been trying to play him as a good guy as possible. Sometimes it's not possible given the nature of his calling. But you know, I've been letting guys go rather than kill them and so on. But I didn't do it there, and it was because of this kind of state of mind you're in, because you because of what's happened to you previously, and you know, that data's being gathered. What are they going to do with it? Are they, you know, it's stored away somewhere. They could sell it to governments, couldn't they? Just, you know, Facebook's a great example. You wonder about Tinder, don't you? Like, you know, people, Tinder must know more about you than you know about yourself in terms of your tastes and what do you call it, your who your type is. I don't know. It's all out there, guys, and it's scary. So there they all are. That's the gang, and we're in chapter 3 of, I think we're towards the end of chapter 3, I get that feeling, so we're probably about to move camp. And we're moving through the main storyline, which, you know, it's good so far, but not the main draw. Let's see how it hots up.